Hi, this is Jim Haviland, and I'm going to walk through some core concepts, some things that everyone needs to know when they're working through FirstOS. So the couple topics we're going to cover in this video: an integrated business operating system, what that means, and how we got there. So we're all talking about the same thing here. Working on the business, that's the concept of we work in the business on a regular basis, doing stuff that adds value. Sometimes we have to be working on the business, creating the situation where value gets created. Evolution and Revolution, this is a great article from a long time ago, but really forms the basis for what we think about it with stages of growth and the types of things you will be going through as you build your business, some predictable problems you'll face, and how the business operating system addresses each of those. And lastly, the 5 leadership competencies. These are all things you're going to be mastering over the entire length of as an entrepreneur. So, first of all, a business operating system is a set of tools and practices, disciplines we like to say, that help you run a business. There are dozens and dozens of books. All of these are popular one system. Some of them are more complete than others. Some of them are applicable to larger businesses or smaller businesses, but they all come from the same stuff. This notion that Peter Drucker created back in the middle of the 1900s, where we're really trying to come up with a consistent way of operating our business, talking about our business, teaching our business to other people in the business so that we can scale and grow and focus on the things that are really most important. So what we say at 90 is that you need a modern integrated business operating system. And the reason for that is everyone has a business operating system. Everyone has a set of things that they end up doing. You get 4 people together to move a couch. They're going to figure out how to talk to each other, what their approach is going to be. Are they going to count when they lift up? Are they just going to say ready, set, go? All those kinds of things will go into a business operating system. And quite often that's an accidental business operating system, an accidental culture. And you'll see that there's a lot of crossover between the notion of an operating system and the notion of a culture. So what we're talking about in a modern integrated one is we bring together all these simple tools, these time-tested, been working for 50 years, maybe 100 years now, and will work for thousands more. These are things by Peter Drucker and Jim Collins, all of these people who have gone through, built businesses and done research on this and found there's ways of bringing together all the common tools for running a business in a way that they all support each other. They're simple, but they're also holistic in that it really helps you accomplish anything. They apply to great extent to almost any kind of business you might be trying to run. But what we're trying to do here is apply a set of principles so that we have rituals, artifacts, and language. And sociologists call this culture. When we understand the rituals and the artifacts and the language of a people, we understand their culture. And when we have intentional rituals, artifacts, and language, we can actually start to build a culture. We can, as human animals, we can start to behave in a way that is consistent and brings meaning to people's lives. So we're trying to find that high trust, and we'll talk about this more, high trust and culture that also involves healthy accountability. So we all are accountable to each other. We all know what we're accountable for. We create agreements between each other about what we're going to go work on. This is what we know from research really works in growing a business. If we can get this going from the very beginning, we're going to be in a great place to grow this for a long time. The other thing I want to make sure you understand is something we call concepts, tools, and disciplines. This is our teaching methodology. So this is pedagogy is the word we use for teaching and learning science, and what we find that works in these methods in this instance around business operating systems is we have tiny bits of concept teaching, and then we present a tool that applies those concepts and helps us to break down big challenging problems into smaller decisions that we have to make that we can all understand and get alignment on. And then we have disciplines for applying those over time. So when do we check in on it? When do we know we're wrong? Things like that. So concepts, tools, and disciplines, you'll hear me say that quite a bit. Rituals, artifacts, and language, you'll hear me say that quite a bit. And ultimately, my friends, this is simple but not easy. Nothing here is complex. You don't need an MBA or a PhD to figure this stuff out. And that's really been the genius of it. Folks like Gino Wickman have brought it down to really simple terms. And I think we've all learned from that we have to keep it very simple, and we'll talk more about that here in a minute. Simple but not easy. What you see there on the right-hand side, that pie shape, picture is a set of core competencies that make up, in this instance, 90 OS. Most of the operating systems have some type of model where they talk about these are the things you have to get good at to really master the operating system, to master, running a great business, or eventually running a great company, enduring great company, as Jim Collins likes to say. And these are the ones that are all part of the 90 OS. And FirstOS is basically a lightweight version of 90 OS, really directed towards companies that have a high growth path, but are still early in their journey. So what goes into a business operating system? All of the tools that are common to running a business. You have to capture your vision. You have to have a way of managing data and figuring out which data is the most important one for everyone to look at. You got to be able to talk to your folks inside the business and give them constructive feedback and have them give you feedback. We have to have tasks, to-dos that we have between us. I have to be able to make commitments about things I'm going to deliver to you at a certain time, and likewise, that's part of healthy accountability. We have to make sure we have a way of defining the customer that we all understand, so we have a common understanding of that. We should figure out who the people in the organization are and keep track of that, make sure we're applying all that. We need to run great meetings. We need to understand people and which people belong here, and how to make sure that they're actually in the right seat, as Jim Collins likes to say, right people, right seat. We need to be able to capture those things that are issues and opportunities and things we need to talk to, topics we need to discuss at our various meetings, and be able to work through those. We've got great disciplines for that in here. We know that there's processes we need to capture, so we need to make sure we're doing all the right best things all the time, and we have to be able to set goals and achieve them, and ultimately the responsibilities chart. That's really about how we organize the responsibility across the entire organization, who's responsible for what, and make sure it all is rationalized. So all of these things are integrated into a tool set called 90, and FirstOS is how we apply these in these smaller organizations. So in a way that you can continue to grow, and the software tool 90 will be with you for a long, long time. So everything you're putting in place now will be with you when you're thousands of people. But we start with the things that are really most important, because ultimately at the beginning, that's when we have the least amount of time, and we can least afford to spend time on things that aren't going to matter yet. So all of this is part of this research that we know has been done. If you haven't familiar with the book Tribal Leadership, I won't have you go read this slide and all, but there is the sense that we've been able to find from research. We know that high trust companies where everyone trusts each other to a great degree, are the ones that are most efficient, effective, and ultimately are most likely to succeed. You can have a low trust company and make lots of money. That's not the issue here. But as far as being repeatable and reliable and getting to where we want to get, high trust is the way to go. And that book is all about this. We apply that learning along with this notion of building healthy accountability, and those two things together, healthy accountability and high trust, are really going to help us remove the drama from our organization, remove the management layer. So we're not managing people, we're enabling people, and they're going off and doing things they really believe in. But we have to have all the right things in place to really enable that. And as you can see here, the percentage of organizations, very few organizations get to that life is great stage, which is where we'd like to get you. Now let's talk about working on the business. So most of us, when we start an organization, we find that we're working in the business. We're doing the thing. We're delivering the service. We're building the product. We spend a lot of time on that. But when we work on a business operating system, we're setting aside some time, an appropriately sized nugget of time, to work on the business. We're taking a step back, looking at down from above on what that business looks like, and what's the right structure, what's the right things for us to go do. We have to disconnect our egos and our role and our past beliefs. I mean, that takes some time. We're not going to do that automatically. We're going to have to work on that and work up to that to really get to the place where we're good at that. But everything we do in our workshops here at FirstOS and all the materials are helping us get there. These are helping you better understand the activities and the mindset for working on the business, not just in the business, because we really want to focus on what's the greater good of the organization. So it can't be about us. If you want to build great businesses and eventually great enduring companies, you have to be selfless in your management of that business. All right, so let's move on to this evolution and revolution concept. So this was back from it's been reprinted in the Harvard Business Review. The link is there. in 98, but it was originally published in the late 60s, early 70s in various forms. And this notion, through research, that every organization, as it's growing, goes through what Greiner talks about as periods of evolution, where we're moving along and we're growing the way we'd like to, and places where we just get stuck, and what Gino Wickman calls hitting the ceiling, where things start to fall apart. Because what we've learned is that what got you here isn't going to get you to the next place. And so we have to be able to, as we go through the stages of growth, realize that we're running a different organization at various places, and we're going to have different problems and different things we have to focus on. So everything in our operating system should be in place to address the things. And sure enough, that's what everyone's operating system does. I mean, everyone has taken on this approach saying, hey, we know we're going to get to a place where we have to do a better job of hiring, because the only way to grow is to hire people. We have to learn how to hire good people. Then we have to learn how to delegate to them in a really efficient manner. Then we have to get to this better and better at coordinating. We have this notion of coordinating overhead. As we get to 50 people or so, we have to do a lot of coordination overhead. When it's 5 people, there isn't a lot of coordination overhead, because you're basically put you all in the same room and you can get on the same page. But when you get to be larger, we have to take some more focus on what it's going to take to make sure everyone understands where we're going, because that's when we're most efficient and effective. And then we have to get good at collaborating, and it just keeps going. There's little things that we have to figure out as we grow, getting better and better at being an organization as opposed to a set of people. But that's just how it works. Luckily, we know everything we know about it. And the thing is, it isn't just at the organizational level. As you get larger, you'll find your whole organization kind of what Gino calls hitting the ceiling. You can it can be at the organizational level, at the department level, and at our individual level. Because here's the thing, my friends, we know that as individuals, we are most motivated when we feel a sense of autonomy, a sense that we're working towards mastery, and we're working towards a purpose. And that mastery can get in our way because we get good at something, and now we no longer want to focus on it. We want to go on to the next thing. If you've ever felt that, that's you hitting a ceiling and then needing to move on. We can plan for that, and that's the nice thing. We can identify it and then give it a name, and we can move on. So, those revolutions. The great news here is that business operating systems are completely designed to help us address those revolutionary moments, those ones where Gina would say we are hitting the ceiling, where we have to do things differently. And all the tools work together seamlessly, and they're fully integrated to help us get through every time. So first rule, the thing we have to go learn is simplify. We have to focus on less is more until it's not. That's this idea that naturally in the universe, things get more complex, and we have to be able to simplify that stuff. As I said, we need to be able to delegate. So as we're simplifying things, we know that eventually we have to delegate those things over. It's one of the reasons to simplify them so we can delegate. We need to make sure that I'm working on the things that I'm best suited for, and that everyone else is having a chance to work towards mastery and purpose and autonomy. So we have to get good at delegation. That's something we just do occasionally, but we have to be good at it. Predicting. This is one of those hard things. Our human brains, the frontal lobe here, is only so good at predicting for very long out. So we have to build a set of tools and approaches and disciplines around how we figure out what's going to happen in the future. We have to get better and better at predicting the time, energy, and resources needed to accomplish what we need to accomplish. Because we want to be able to set our goals way out there. We want to be able to say, hey, in 10 years, we're going to accomplish this amazing thing, what we call a compelling, audacious goal, what Jim Collins called a big, hairy, audacious goal. I don't know what big and hairy necessarily means, but I know what compelling means. What's the thing we're all going to try to go figure out together, and what's it going to take to get there? I don't know for sure, but I have to start putting it together in a way that I can start acting on so that I know I'm making progress towards it. So if I'm going to do that, I have to systematize everything I'm doing. We have this term we like called ad hocery, this notion that every day I'm kind of figuring it out, and I can be a hero today and solve some problems, but heroism is not a strategy. You've got to get to the place where you're on a regular basis, all the right best things happen every day in the right best way. And the more you do that, the more you can focus on building and growing things, creating new opportunities for yourself, and really having a good time and being profitable at your business, which is ultimately what we're trying to do. And the last one is structure. We have to continuously reconsider the way we've structured the business, the way we've structured the work, because as we get more and more people in the organization, We have more of that coordination overhead to manage, and if we structure it the right way, that coordination overhead has the least amount of impact on us. It's the amount of time we have to put into just coordinating everybody if we lay it out right, and then all of the reporting ends up making sense, and all of the responsibility roll-up makes sense. So we have to be able to think about what we do, and the structure of organizing those people in that work has to be reconsidered on a regular basis. So we're going to lean into this a little bit more because these are important topics, and I want you to take these away. So we need to simplify everything. If you intend to grow, leaders must master the skill of reducing complexity. You must be better and better at recognizing where things get too complex. And quite often it's because people make mistakes. If people are making mistakes, one of the things you're going to ask yourself is, was I not clear about the instructions, or was it just getting too complex? I got too many things I got to keep in their head. The more you got to keep in your head as opposed to really having it systematized, the more likely you are to make mistakes. So an example of this, I got a couple of pictures for you. So two people talking to each other, maybe that's where you're starting. It's just two-way communication. You can probably figure that one out. 3 people, now I've got a lot more. I got 50% more people, but got 200% more complexity. 4 people. But let's go on to this next one. It looks like this. So this is a great back when we called them tweets from Rich Rogers, this notion of 3 lines like this, and you get all the way down to 14 people have 91 lines of communication. You don't really want to have to manage 91 lines of communication, so you have to take some of the complexity out of how everything works so that people can just talk to people they need to talk to. Next one is delegation, and ultimately, this is the only way to grow. If there's no such thing as a 2-person billion-dollar organization, so if you want to continue to grow and have the biggest impact on the universe, then you're going to have to be good at figuring out what things you're really going to have, and not only be good at recognizing what it is, but being good at packaging it up and handing it off and letting go of it so that other people can actually be great at that too, can actually be focused on it. Because that's really ultimately what happens, is that you're no longer the best at it. Someone else is going to be better at it than you because they're going to specialize in it. You get from the place where three or four people are doing everything and they're kind of mediocre at half the things they're doing. Eventually, you want to have someone that's spectacular at every little thing that you've been doing, and even things you hadn't thought about doing, because that's the point of delegation. Someone else is going to really make it amazing. And so we need to continue to work on making ourselves good at taking off chunks, handing them off, letting go of it, and making sure it's clear what the outcome has to be, because that's the other side of the coin. People can accomplish something if they know what they're supposed to be working on. Next one is this planning and predicting. This is really the notion that I have to know that if I'm showing up today, the things I'm working on, how do I know that this is actually going to get me to that longer term goal that I had? And that's really the point. So we have a set of structures and a set of questions and things we built into the operating systems, all of them, so we can say, okay, this long way out, I'm going to have this couple of things I'm trying to accomplish. And we're all compelled by that. We all want to accomplish those things. But how do I, let's make sure I've got a way of asking questions. One of the things we say about business operating systems, it's all about asking the right questions at the right times. Occasionally, I want to think about, okay, if I'm going to get this place in 10 years, where do I have to be in 3 short years? If I'm going to get this place in 3 short years, where do I have to be at the end of this year to make sure I'm on track to get to that? Because I need to be to this place to be on track to get to my 10-year goal. Same thing with 1 year, same with 90 days. Ultimately, down to the week by week, I need to know I'm working on things that are helping me build and fix the stuff in my business, and I have 90-day goals that add up to me accomplishing my 1-year goals, which add up to accomplishing my 3-year goals, and becoming that business that I really want to be, both in my outcomes and also the structure and simplicity of what I'm doing. So in our operating system, we have some long-term goals. Vision plans get there, 90 days and beyond. That's so in FirstOS, we talk about that mostly in our long-term planning scenario. We talk a little bit about in vision, and then we really finish it up and make it solid in our long-term planning, strategic planning module. Because really, this image you put in your head is saying, hey, I'm going to try to cut through the jungle. Every once in a while, I'm going to climb up a tree, make sure I'm headed the right direction towards the mountain or towards the river, whatever I'm trying to get to. And then, because I probably have to make adjustments, and then give everybody, climb back down the tree and give everyone clear direction of what needs to happen over the next let's say 90 days. And so that's going to be our pulse, what Jim Collins called our 20-mile march. Every 90 days, heads down, keep going forward with the direction we set, and then we come up at the end of that 90 days, climb back up the tree and make sure we're heading in the right direction. And we want to, so that way we can communicate it as well. Now, part of that is systematizing the things that have to happen on a regular basis. In our operating system, we talk about 6, maybe 10 core processes that more, and you have more as you grow. You'll have sub processes to those processes, but ultimately, starting at the very beginning and figuring out, hey, this is something that we have to get right on a regular basis. It's part of our what Jim Collins calls our flywheel. So let's make sure we've systematize this one. We capture as a process. And in some operations, they call this your franchise model. It's your way, so kind of capturing that. Because it should bake in your strategy. Hey, we do it this way because this outcome is we're trying to get to. And we also know we don't want to spend the time writing those 400-page standard operating procedure manuals. That's something that no one's ever going to look at. So I have to, once again, simplify everything we do, so that it doesn't have everything in it, but it has 20% of the content gets me to 80% of the outcomes. I still have to train people. I still have to pick people that are good at that thing and know what to do about it. But I want to make sure things don't get left behind. So it's really having that, what we call that airline pilot checklist of looking at stuff. And it creates consistency, it creates the chance for scalability, and really gives us a common language that we can talk about. Hey, that's the blueberry pie procedure. We need to make sure we execute that the same way every time if we're going to have great blueberry pies. The last one, structure. Asking the question, what is the right structure for us to get to our next level of simplicity, to our next level of accomplishment? Because what's going to happen is if you don't have the right structure, then people are going to bump into each other. You want to give everyone free rein to run as hard as they can every quarter. If they're in the right structure and they're reporting to the right people, they have enough visibility to make all the right decisions. And that's what we're really trying to get to. There's different operations have different names for the tool we use for managing this. It's the organizational chart, the responsibility chart, the accountability chart. We call it the responsibility chart. We want to map out responsibilities across the organization. And there's your 5 leadership competencies. Simplify, less is more, delegate, elevate to your highest potential, predict, better at predicting time, resources, and outcomes to get where you want to be, systematize, the end of it, hockery, and structure. So I want to make sure I'm continuously at appropriate times, not all the time, but reconsidering the structure so I have the right context for people to be successful. All right, so that's it. Those are our 5 things we covered today. We want to make sure that you understand the basic notion of a business operating system. It's that set of tools and disciplines that help us get to our outcomes in a reliable way. We want to make sure that you understand that we all hit the ceiling. We all go through the revolution, evolution stages, but the point of the business operating system is to address those, help you recognize those things that get in the way of our success, and ultimately have a tool set for addressing them directly. And ultimately, if we keep getting better at simplifying, delegating, predicting, systematizing, and structuring, we know we'll run a better and better business over time. And that's what we have to do as leaders to be better and better leaders, to be the leaders that our great ideas deserve. Thanks.